The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms. Hello, listeners! I'm so grateful for the listener interest over the last few years, and I want to keep this podcast inspiring to you with my amazing goddess guests and to amplify the voice of the divine feminine in the world today. This podcast takes time, effort, and resources to share with you every few weeks. I have an ask of you. One of the ways to support the Oracle of Luna podcast is to become a subscriber to premium and bonus material. Each of the podcast episodes have 2 links at the bottom. It's quick and easy, should probably take you 1 minute, and for as little as $3 a month, you can support the show and become a subscriber. I really appreciate it, and it means a lot. Thank you, and blessed be. Merry meet! Welcome to another episode of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I'm thrilled to chat with Lacey Burbage. Lacey is a 4th-generation folk healer and witch. As an ordained priestess of the goddess, she practices a nature-based tradition, and she specializes in hearth, hedge, green, and kitchen magic. Her new book, Naturally Modern Magic, is available now. Lacey is devoted to helping others develop an authentic practice that is uniquely their own. Stay tuned at the end, as Lacey is going to give us a short grounding invocation. So welcome, Lacey.
Hello, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you as well. And Lacey has a new book. It's called Naturally Modern Magic, and I just read it and I love it. It's filled with spells and rituals and lots of unique meditations as well. So yeah, I've got a lot to talk about with you. How's your day?
It has been a great day. I usually work today. It's kind of my close the door, lock the world out day, and just put my head down and work. And it's been nice and productive. And I'm so excited to be here now.
Good.
What about you? How's your day been?
Pretty good. Just, getting ready for the podcast. And then later I'm going to celebrate my partner's birthday. So we're going out. So kind of a celebratory celebration. So let's get rolling here. I have a lot of questions for you. So how did your journey with the goddess begin? And how did your spiritual journey begin?
Well, I've always grown up in a somewhat witchy, magical household. My mom was really into tarot cards and books and things like that were sort of alternative at the time. And so it was not too crazy of a leap for me. Early on, I want to say in 1999, so I was still a child. My mom had picked up a book on Wicca, like Wicca 101 or something like that, long time ago when Barnes and Noble had like 10 books, right?
Yeah.
10 books in the religion section on witchcraft. And it was Wicca 101, and there was another one, Every Woman a Goddess. And she didn't really take to them as much as I did. She might have like circled back to them later, but I just devoured them. So early on, there was somewhat of an emphasis on goddess that was really refreshing. And then later I found mentors who were Wiccan, and other goddess-based spiritualities. Probably around 2016, I found the Sophia Center for Goddess Study. They were here in Las Vegas, where I live.
Oh, that's where I live.
Oh, really? Oh, that's wonderful.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, that's so great. Good to know there's another spirit
Yes.
so close by.
Yeah.
So they were
Okay.
here for quite some time. I was served on their board and I was ordained as a priestess of the goddess
Ah.
through there. So it was a wonderful experience, fairly early on, but throughout my life it just got stronger.
Do you go to college or study women's studies or goddess or anything in school or?
I had always been very attracted to history, so that's really where a lot of my interests and sort of developed and bloomed. And through one of my mentors, Dr. Candice Kant, she did a lot of emphasis on early Neolithic and or early prehistoric societies and their thoughts and views towards goddesses or this,
Mm,
studies and woman-based studies and things like that. So she was
yeah.
really a big inspiration in my life. She was definitely one of my biggest mentors.
So you began to study mythology, goddess theology, divine feminine.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think through that, I sort of went, very earth-based, very into plants and herbs and rocks and minerals. And now it's very interesting because I've sort of circled back. I feel like I've been working um, more with Aphrodite, like she's reaching out to me more, and that I'm doing more of this self-love work and finding more of that, which has been really exciting lately to sort of like see that evolution, cycles kind
Mhm.
of coming to an end sort of thing.
So you began to just grow your own herbs. Is that how it happened? Like you had a big garden or started planting?
Yeah, well, early when I moved to my first apartment, this was when I lived on the East Coast. I hadn't yet made it to Las Vegas. And I moved to this apartment. I had a small little gravel outside the like balcony area, and plants would spring up. And as they would spring up, I just sort of noticed how they had everything they needed to grow. Like it was almost effortless. And most people would call them weeds. And I think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
My mom always said a weed is just an unloved plant. And there was another quote that I really liked about weeds that said the difference between a plant and a weed is judgment. So I'm very, particular about like it's not really it's a plant, it's not a weed
Yeah.
in a bad sense, right? But these plants would just spring up and I just started to learn about them. So I would learn about wild lettuce and I learned that wild lettuce had a long history tied into witchcraft and long, history of therapeutic properties and being used in different ways in herbalism. And so I just started to learn about this one plant.
Mhm.
Once I got my own space, I was able to grow things. It really got
Yeah.
deeper, especially moving to a completely different region, completely different climate where I had to relearn things. On the East Coast, I could throw some seeds out and most things would grow. But when I had to move to the West Coast, had to move to the desert,
Yeah.
had to
I-
learn that different
yeah.
plants need different things.
Yeah.
And that
Different
was a valuable,
ecosystems.
yeah. Yeah, it was a valuable lesson. I like to look at the deeper meaning in things and the symbolism. So when I'm looking at this plant, I'm like, okay, this is what this plant needs to grow effortlessly. This is what this plant needs to grow effortlessly. And I feel like there's really a
Mm.
lesson there if you pay attention.
Yeah. There's so much to learn from plants, as you know, and their purposes and their gifts to us, right? And their healing powers.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. There's so much to learn. So many lessons from them.
Yeah. So when did you begin to connect with the power of words and writing?
Oh, I had always loved writing poetry and journaling. I had done that most of my life, but it was something that I did mostly for me because I was pretty bad at grammar. So
Yeah.
the idea that I could ever write a book was pretty far out there idea for me. It was a reach for me to wrap my head around. But I was that girl at sleepovers. I brought the Ouija board, I brought the tarot cards. If you were going through a bad breakup, my friends would be like, call Lacey. She's going to bring over some candles. She's got the crystals. She's going to figure this out. And I
Yeah.
might as well. Whatever situation people were going through, I've always enjoyed finding words to describe that feeling, to sort of put
Ah,
it into words.
mm-hmm.
And I was going through a thesaurus or a rhyming dictionary. And that was fun for me to
Yeah.
learn different words and how to put them together. So writing, that took on a whole new level, writing incantations. And I found that that was something that I enjoyed a lot writing the book was writing the incantations and different words rhyming or not even rhyming but just having meaning. That was really enjoyable part of writing a book.
tell us a little bit about your new book, Naturally Modern Magic, and what inspired you to write it and get it published.
Well, the biggest inspiration is always the community, the people, my followers, the people who read my blog, the people who are on Patreon, the people who are just out there and who are just building a community with me. It's we're about developing that personal practice that flows with life. So it's about real life and how do you use witchcraft practice every day in life. So once I heard someone say, they just wanted to stop reading about witchcraft and start actually practicing it, that's when I decided, okay, that's what I was going to do. That's what this book was going to be about. Oftentimes I get messages from people asking me to write a spell, and they'll give me a very specific situation. And that's really helped me look at it from different perspectives and help write spells that are for really everyday situations. So some of them will
Yeah.
have multiple ingredients, but some are just one simple thing. And I think there's over 200 spells in the book. So they're
There's a
all written
lot.
in a way that written in a way that these are things we might encounter in real life.
Yeah.
Some have more, some have less ingredients, some have a few more steps, but it's a way that each ingredient stacks the odds in your favor. So you could substitute something, you could omit something. It's there to help you practice and learn and develop your practice. You're not going to spend all your time reading. It's going to
That's
help you
right. Yeah.
learn about the theories while you're practicing.
It's one of the things that I love about this book is that you can quickly kind of, it's like a go-to guide almost where you can, if you're feeling angst or anger or whatever, you can like pull up a spell and it's easy to use, I would say.
Yes, yes, that's
Less,
exactly what I wanted. Good. I'm
yeah,
glad you
less
got that.
complex than others I've read.
Good. Yes, I wanted something that you would actually put into practice. That was the point, is to
Yeah.
sort of practice while advancing your craft. Yes, I want you to learn about these ingredients. So there are descriptions before each spell, and it tells you I use this ingredient because of this. But if you don't have it, you can go find a substitute. You'll just look up a similar intention and substitute it. Or if you need to omit something, that's fine. You're stacking the odds in your favor when you have more steps and ingredients.
Mm-hmm. So you're a fourth generation witch? How did that happen? Or tell us, I'm just curious how you know, how you became fourth generation, or what were the women previous to you in your family like?
So, a fourth generation folk healer. So, I
Okay.
see that as a way to distinguish that although I call myself a witch and I would consider the women who came before me witches, they may not have called themselves witches. So, I
Yeah,
think that that's a
sure.
very personal label. So, I say we all would have agreed, we all agree with folk healer. So, every woman that I can remember, I mean, I guess coming from the area that I'm from in the South, and we're from North Carolina, um,
Hmm.
we were all about some sort of remedy, some sort of um, type of healing, some sort of prayer. It wasn't, just take medicine. There was a whole ritual behind it. There was reasoning behind it. There was learning about nature, growing something, taking something from your garden and rubbing it on your gums, when the baby is teething, or there was give this for a cough and drink this tea and remove a headache this way. There was all kinds of folk
Mm,
healing things that I always grew
yeah.
up around, and folk sayings and things like that. And my mom has a book full of things she's put together from my great grandmother, my grandmother, and herself. And so I long to get my hands on that one day. But I'll often
Ah.
call her up. Yes, I'll say, all right, someone's got questions about how to remove a wart with a penny. And tell me how that was done. Because I don't necessarily do that, but people in my family did. So my mom has records of it.
That's fascinating because it's intrinsic. It's like you understand it because you've been around it for so long and the matriarchy in your family, it's just, they were immersed in it as well. So folk healing to me, it's just fascinating because it takes on a life of its own, the magical ingredients, the herbs, and in each kind of folk healing spell or whatever the use is, that the remedy is just it takes on a life of its own. So I'm fascinated with it. So it's very cool.
Absolutely. And in my practice and craft, I will utilize sort of both, uh, folk ideas around magical tools and things, reasons why you do stuff, and then also more of your historical practices where it goes to correspondences or it goes to elements, things like alchemy and things like that, that you might find in a little bit more traditional witchcraft practice versus folk
Yeah.
practice. And I enjoy that. I enjoy sort of learning where this links to the other. That's fascinating to me.
How can plants and the elements be spiritual supporters of our magic and spell work? Is there is there a reason? Is there like do they give off certain energies? How would you kind of describe that?
Yeah, there's a few different ways they can support magic or energy work or however you want to work with them, right? So the first is to look at them from a sympathetic perspective. So we were just talking about in terms of correspondences, right? So that's the sympathetic perspective, like attracts like. If you have an intention of love, for example, then you want to use a plant that corresponds to love in your working, in your spell work or your ritual. So let's say it was lavender. So it helps to one, aid in communicating your intention. If your intention is love, this ingredient communicates that vibration of love. So that's stacking those odds in your favor. Instead of just stating your intention, adding that ingredient is going to help stack those odds in your favor to communicate that intention further, to attract that vibration or tune to that vibration, right?
Yeah, so it's amplifying a vibration with plants.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's one way that you can look at it. And then the next is from when you're more of like a personal energetic perspective. When doing spell work, you're tapping into a lot of our personal energy when we're doing it. And in this way, you're not having to use all of your energy. You're sharing some of that with the other ingredients, right? They're sort of taking on some of that energy work for you. So you can conserve more of your personal power instead of needing to use all of it for that communication and that spell work, or all of it to raise the energy for that work. You can
Yeah.
share some of that with the other ingredients.
And the elements, such as, earth, fire, water,
Mhm.
air, we can weave that into our spell work.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So especially if you're looking at the correspondences, right?
Yeah.
Each, as a whole, plants correspond to Earth, but each plant has a different correspondence too. So
Yes.
there are times if you need to bring a balance of elemental energy into your working, then you can find one plant that represents each of those. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great way to garden too.
Mm-hmm. And then we can also call upon deity and can use candle and crystals and other sacred objects when working with our plant allies, right?
Yeah, you got it. That's stacking those odds in your favor. So if you know, you could simply do all of that energy work yourself. Again, if you're going to cast a circle or however you do your workings, if you're going to cast a circle and you're going to call in um, different energies, then you're not needing to do all of that work yourself. You can call in the elements to help balance out the energy. You can call in a deity or other being from your spirit team to help make that connection further. If you want to stack the odds some more, use a candle. You could do that in terms of fire magic, or some might call it candle magic, right? Or whatever you want to use, whatever those ingredients are, that's really what we're doing. It's just stacking those odds in your favor, and trying
Mm-hmm.
to take more of that energetic burden off of yourself. You know,
Yeah.
we're such controlling beings. And especially when we come to witchcraft, it's because we oftentimes we want to do a spell because we want something, right? We want to maybe control an outcome, or we want to attract something. And so um yes, we want to help those things along. We want to stack the odds in our favor, but we don't have to take on all of that burden ourselves.
Yeah,
We can,
that's a great
yeah,
way of explaining it.
yeah,
Really heard that explained quite that way, but it's coordinating with all your ingredients, all, everything, the deity, the crystals, the plants, the herbs, the fire, all the element, it's coordinating, right? Kind of
yeah. They're all. What were you gonna say?
nothing. It's a big coordination act.
Oh yes, yeah. Like they're all on your team. That's what I was about to say. They're all on your
Yeah.
team, and you're all working together.
Yeah, and I love how doing spell work with plants, it takes you out of yourself and it puts you in balance with the wholeness of the seasons and the cycles of nature, right?
Hmm.
And that it gets you way away from linear thinking and it puts you more into holistic thinking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we tend to want to control everything, but it gives you this idea that okay, there is this process, there is this cycle. When we cast spells, there's a spell cycle. So the easiest way to see that is if you compare it to the moon. If you start something, manifest something on a new moon, and it goes through that cycle, there's that death and rebirth. You come all the way to the full moon and its full greatest blooming, and then it starts to die down to the dark moon, into back again the new moon, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we did that spell where we manifest at the new moon and we give gratitude at the full moon and then start to release at the as the moon starts to wane, that's where we're seeing that cyclical life too. We have to sort of understand that, nature is still moving. No matter what we do, we're not going to control that. The moon is still moving. No matter what we do, we're not going to control that. We do have to release some of it, but we can flow with it too. And that really helps when you're looking at that perspective in your magic. In when I was just talking about the plants, seeing what plants grew when they were given what they needed to grow, they just effortlessly grew. And so that's really what the spells are about: is give me what I need to grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's forming a relationship, right? It's an energetic relationship. Do you think that plants hear us when we're talking to them and working with them?
Oh, absolutely, I do. And that might be my animistic perspective. That might just be the way that I see it. I'm sure people see it in different ways. But it's, they hear you or they communicate sort of in a different way, not in the same way that you and I look at each other and have a conversation, not in like an audible way, but almost like in the way that you look at your best friend across the room and you know what you're thinking without
Mm-hmm.
having to say it. You can read each other's minds. It's like that. It's more on a vibration, more on a wavelength.
Vibration. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, on a vibration. And to me, that's where the correspondence can really play in, where someone somewhere has been trying to explain this thing, this that connection that you have. And in terms of vibration or correspondence, lavender for love, I think that's where someone is trying to explain that connection, whatever it is that's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is it takes some practice to get out of thinking mind and get into the world of spirit and get on the level, the vibrational level of plants and deities and working with them for magic. It takes a while. I mean, it took me a while to get into that, but I was really involved with Dianic Wicca and writing goddess meditations. And then I think we all start from someplace and then we kind of effortlessly flow. Our spiritual practice flows into various facets and different rivers. So anyway, I just find it interesting that plants, working with plants, I mean, you can start that way, but you really, it's practice, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love the way you said that too. Flows, sort of flows into different rivers. That is a very beautiful way to put it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it goes with the elements too. It's all connected, right? The plants need all the elements. They themselves are an element and they need all the elements to live and thrive and to flow and grow effortlessly. You can tell when, and it goes back to that communication, you can tell when you stop watering a plant that
Yeah.
it's susceptible to its environment, right? That's almost like you communicating to it, like I'm going to restrict something that you need in order to grow and thrive. And there's so much symbolism that I feel that if you kind of get still, I call it deeper meaning in our coven. If you get still and you kind of pay attention, you really can see how it all mirrors life. If you restrict something that plant needs to grow, it's not going to grow in the same. It's going to react to its environment, and we're going to be the same way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Respect for nature and living in balance with the natural world is a core principle of Wicca. And, with the devastation of the LA fires and global warming and droughts and I'm just wondering, how can we, as witches, help preserve and protect nature as good citizens of the earth to revitalize and build balance back into nature and the earth and Mother Earth?
I would say that my biggest takeaway from everything I've learned is to focus your energy as locally as possible. So whether that's your spell work or efforts, if you've got access to a patch of dirt, can you grow native plants for native pollinators? Can you support sustainable farmers at the farmers market or local small business, or maybe it's local politics? Those are good places to focus your energy. And if you have the bandwidth for more, add a little bit more. But your own backyard is going to be the best place to start. And then remember that it's an area where it's easy for us to overgive. I
Yeah.
have some very, very personal experience. If you looked at my Instagram 6 years ago, the only thing I almost exclusively talked about was sustainability and environmentalism. And it taught me a lot that the important thing was to be a good steward to the earth. It wasn't as important for me to fit my family's jar trash an entire year of trash in a mason jar. It wasn't that important for me to never use a piece of plastic ever. It was important for me to just learn how to have that good relationship with the earth, things that people for thousands of years have known and we have forgotten.
Yes, the respect and understanding the sacredness in nature
Yes,
and the
yes.
earth.
That community, that balance, the respect, the sacredness, absolutely. Yeah, those things, if you can, again, start in your own backyard, start with something really small, a nature journal, even if that's where you start and you build that relationship and make habits from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's really going to serve you. That's going to be sustainable for you and the earth versus burning out trying to change the whole world, because we certainly we have the love to give, but we don't have all the energy to overgive.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there has to be a certain amount of balance. As you know, we're all
Mhm.
busy, but we have to have a certain amount of balance to give and place where to place our energy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
speaking of
definitely.
that, do you have any upcoming plans for the future, such as new books or events or workshops, classes?
Well, I have a few book ideas up my sleeve, but nothing set in stone yet. I have a coven on Patreon where I teach naturally modern witch method for developing your personal practice that flows with everyday life. So we like to focus on simply existing magically and effortlessly. Again, that flow, that like, what do we need to make things magical? And I always have a free witchy calendar. If you join my email list, it goes out every month. And it has one witchy thing that you can do every day to feel more magical.
Love
So
that.
you get yeah, it's a whole 30-day calendar, however days are in the month. I guess you get shortchanged for February.
Yeah. No, I love that because it keeps us in touch with our witchy side, right? Our healing side and kind of a touch base every day. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. It came from that. I just want to start practicing, stop reading and start practicing. I just
Yeah.
want my practice to flow. I'm like, we just want to feel witchier. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
What's
I
going to make
mean,
you feel witchier?
yes, yes, and be actively witchy instead of just reading about things.
Right, right. Yeah. I heard someone say one time, you don't need more information. I think there's like 90 billion posts on Witch Talk or something like that on, all the witchy hashtags and everything like
Oh, I
that.
know.
There's
I know.
billions of posts. So we don't need more information. If all you needed was information, we would all be millionaires with six-pack abs. I need to track down who said that, because I'm like, yeah, well, you don't need more information. You got to know what to do with it. It's that teach a man to fish thing, right?
Absolutely. It's giving back and creating the energy of give and take and actually actively creating magic. Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Stop reading, start practicing.
Yeah, so I love that. What is your website and how can our listeners find you online?
The website is naturallymodernwitch.com, and under TikTok and YouTube, it's Naturally Modern Witch. Instagram is going to be Naturally Modern, and yeah, the book is available. I think all the major booksellers.
Hmm. Excellent. Yeah, I love this book to all our listeners. It's a great kind of a guidebook that you can pick up and easily immerse yourself in these spells and rituals that are they're really accessible. So I really enjoyed it, reading this book, and I think it's going to stay on my shelf for a while because I can pull it out and do a spell and work with some plants and yeah, create some magic. So thank you, Lacey. And Lacey is going to give us a short invocation before we end here. So I'll let you do that, Lacey.
All right. So a little bit of sort of like an elemental grounding. We're going to be able to just visualize and pull on all of the elements. So if you get comfortable and take a couple of breaths, close your eyes and visualize yourself standing in a serene, just a beautiful forest by a flowing river. You can feel the ground beneath your feet and you're connecting to the element of earth. Imagine the roots extending from the soles of your feet and you're anchoring deep into the earth. This is stability, the feeling of strength. This is the grounding. Feel what the earth provides for you. Now bring your attention to the gentle breeze. You feel it flow through the air all around you. It's cool and light, and you are connecting to the element of air. You breathe deep. You can feel the natural sense of the world filling your lungs. This is air. This is the feeling of clarity, inspiration, and freedom. If you bring your attention to the bright light of the sun shining above you, feel the warmth on your skin. This is a flame in the sky, the element of fire. This is the feeling, fuels your intentions. This is what guides you towards your goals. Now we'll turn our attention to the river, and this is the element of water. Feel its gentle movements. Know that it is full of pure energy. It can wash away any stagnant emotions within you. It is adaptable. It takes life's challenges with grace. This is the feeling of water. Now feel that light in the center of your heart. Feel it connected to all of the energies around you. And take a moment to embrace this feeling. Now gently come back. Bring your awareness to the present moment. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your nose. Told you we were all witches. And open your eyes. Welcome back.
Blessed be. Thank you so much. That was lovely. I love that feeling of being immersed with the elements. That was very powerful. Thank you so much, Lacey, for inspiring us to connect and amplify our magic with the divine energy of the earth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. And thank you again to our listeners for tuning in. And until next time, blessed be. Bye bye.